The Ryugyong Hotel is the tallest building in North Korea, standing at a whopping 330 meters. It's right in the center of Pyongyang, a city packed with flashy monuments and buildings. But this pyramid-shaped hotel totally overshadows everything else. You can spot it from miles away. It was originally supposed to be the tallest hotel in the world and a symbol of the country. Construction kicked off over 30 years ago. And a few years in, they had the basic structure up. But here's the kicker. Not a single guest has checked in since it opened. The place has been sitting empty for decades. Why is that? What's it like inside? Will anyone ever get to stay there? We're diving into the so-called Hotel of Doom. Now, North Korea is super tight with their media, so getting reliable info can be tough. Like, remember when that US soldier crossed into North Korea a few months back? Everyone was left in the dark. North Korea said he was running away from mistreatment in the US. But is that the whole story? North Korea is seriously one of the most isolated places on the planet. The totalitarian regime barely lets anyone see what life is really like there. But how the outside world views North Korea is super important to the country. They've built a bunch of fancy monuments in the capital, Pyongyang. Those stunning skyscrapers and impressive statues are all about showing off how modern, wealthy, and stable they claim to be. To get a grip on the Ryugyong Hotel, we've got to take a quick dive into the country's history. So, back in 1945, Korea was a Japanese colony. That all changed when Japan surrendered in World War II. Korea got split into two occupation zones, the South by the USA and the North by the Soviet Union. This split led South Korea to become a democracy and open up to the world, while North Korea turned into a totalitarian state under communism. And just like that, the two countries became enemies, with tensions peaking during the Korean War in 1950. It goes on for 3 years and takes over 4 million lives. This war really drives a wedge between North and South Korea. Ever since, the 38th parallel has been the line that keeps the people of the peninsula apart. Even though there's been a ceasefire since the war ended, things still pretty tense from time to time. The vibe is definitely chilly. Fast forward a few decades, and South and North Korea are still bitter rivals. In 1986, a South Korean company builds a hotel in Singapore, and it's the tallest in the world at that time. Just 2 years later, South Korea gets to host the Olympics. That's some serious fights for the country. Meanwhile, North Korea's leader Kim Il-sung, who was in charge from 1949 to 1994, isn't thrilled about all this. So, the North strikes back. In 1989, they host the World Festival of Youth and Students, bringing in over 10,000 visitors from 177 countries to the capital. Leading up to the event, North Korea splurges $4 billion to spruce up Pyongyang for their guests, building new roads and stadiums. They even have plans for a new hotel that's supposed to be 104 meters taller than the South Korean one. This would make it the tallest hotel in the world, even taller than the Eiffel Tower. The Ryugyong Hotel's design is pretty wild. It's set to have 3 wings that lean at a 75-degree angle, all coming together at a cone shape on top. It looks kind of like a pyramid, a mountain, or maybe even a rocket. With around 3,000 rooms across 105 floors, it boasts a whopping 360,000 square meters of space. Plus, it's got a bowling alley and a nightclub. The cherry on top? At the very tip of the cone, there are 5 restaurants that can rotate for a full 360 degrees view. So, construction kicks off in 1987. So, 2 years down the line, just in time for the World Festival, they were all set to have a opening. They built floor after floor of this massive 105-story building, and it just kept climbing higher. But, honestly, it became pretty clear that trying to open just 2 years after they started building was a little too optimistic, so they had to put the international guests in other hotels instead. They pushed the opening date back to 1992. Then, in 1991, the Soviet Union collapses, and the Cold War wraps up. With the USSR gone, North Korea loses its main supporter. A year later, the hotel hits a staggering 330 meters tall, standing out over everything around it. But guess what? It's still not finished. They never got around to that ceremonial opening. By that point, they'd already dropped around $750 million on construction, and North Korea just didn't have the cash to keep it going. So back in 1993, everything came to a complete standstill. This once glorious project turned into a total eyesore for the nation. The hotel was left without windows, just a gray, empty shell standing there. It looked like a sad concrete giant. Up on the roof, a rusty old crane has been sitting there for years. Meanwhile, the people of North Korea are facing some serious poverty. The country is deep in an economic crisis, and a huge famine hits. There are shortages of supplies, power outages, and no healthcare to speak of. Kim Jong-il steps in as the new dictator, and he's all about keeping up appearances, refusing to accept much-needed humanitarian aid for political reasons. Around the same time, the Ryugyong Hotel just vanishes from official photos. The regime even edits images of Pyongyang before they get published, erasing the sad state of the hotel that symbolizes the country's decline. Fast forward nearly 15 years after construction stopped, and suddenly, things start to change. The Egyptian telecom company Orascom gets brought in to finally finish up the hotel's windows and facade as part of a bigger deal. So, back in 2011, Kim Jong-il passed away, and his son Kim Jong-un took over the reins. That same year, they wrapped up work on this hotel. The luxury hotel group Kempinski was all set to add 150 rooms in the upper part of the building. Everyone was buzzing about the grand opening of this fancy place, but it never happened. Fast forward to 2013, and Kempinski pulls the plug on the project because of rising political tensions between North Korea and the West. As of now, the hotel has never seen a single guest. It's totally off limits. They even call it the Hotel of Doom. No matter how stunning the exterior looks, the inside is starting to fall apart. Experts are saying the construction isn't exactly top-notch, since it's just a massive chunk of concrete without any steel support. Remember that other concrete skyscraper that collapsed in Pyongyang back in 2014? Yeah, not a good sign. Instead of welcoming tourists, North Korea is still known for its nuclear tests, wild action flicks, and the struggles of its people living in poverty. Since 2018, the building's been repurposed for propaganda, decked out with thousands of LEDs on the facade. They run these 4-minute videos on a loop, showcasing North Korea's history and political slogans. Topping it all off is a giant North Korean flag lighting up the skyline. What started as a symbol of strength and prosperity has turned into a glaring reminder of North Korea's over-the-top ambitions and the failures of its dictatorship. If you peek behind the shiny exterior, you'll see the harsh reality.